So welcome to the Phillips Curve. The original Phillips Curve, developed by Phillips, surprisingly, who was looking for PhD thesis in 1958 at the LSE, and it's very, very straightforward. It's simply this, that there's a trade-off between inflation and unemployment. According to the original Phillips Curve, you can't simultaneously have lower inflation and lower unemployment. But policymakers, governments, politicians must decide whether they want either a higher rate of inflation but lower unemployment, or go for a higher rate of unemployment whilst benefiting from lower inflation. So the choice is theirs. And therefore we can draw this Phillips curve. It even becomes negative where you could have deflation at some point when unemployment is relatively high. And so we'd either be at point A with low unemployment, high inflation. And the reason for this is if we're going to get unemployment down, we need to increase aggregate demand. So there's more aggregate demand in the economy, therefore output will increase and the employment of labour, which is derived demand, will increase. There might be shortages of labour occurring, and therefore you tend to get cost push inflation occurring as people demand higher wages. So point A can be seen on this Keynesian ADS diagram, okay, which is simply this point here. Point A is where there's very little spare capacity in the economy, aggregate demand is relatively high, unemployment is low, but prices are increasing, there's inflation, for two reasons. One, because of demand pull factors, and cost push factors, because there'll be shortages of labour in the labour market. Alternatively, you could be at point B here, and at point B there's a low level of aggregate demand, so that's equivalent to this point here, AD1, and at a low level of aggregate demand there'll be lower inflationary pressures, so there'll be less demand pull inflation, but there'll be spare labour in the labour market, so there won't be cost push inflation, and the problem is though that there'll be spare capacity and therefore a high level of unemployment. So this curve here basically explains this simple Phillips curve here, which is simply that there's a trade-off between inflation and unemployment. However, if you watch the next video, you realise it gets just a bit more complicated when Milton Friedman becomes involved. So thank you very much for watching.